Hey, welcome to this bonus lesson of Module 1, where I'm going to be showing you a rookie mistake or something that it's important to know if it happens, how to fix it, and why it's happening. Because honestly, it's one of the most annoying things that if you don't know what's going on, it's incredibly frustrating, especially if you're learning ZBrush. And it's all to do with this concept of 2.5D and 3D, right? So I still have, I'm going to go in full screen here. And I still have the project or dog project that we started playing around in the previous video with the navigation, and I have the same UI in here. Now let's go ahead and change the document size. So remember that we talked about in the previous video about the AA have and the actual, right? So right now I have the document at actual, so we can see some jagged lines and some broken edges. It's not too bad, but if you want to do a render, you probably want to avoid this, or even a screen capture of that. So if we click AA have, we go to have the document. Now everything looks really nice, but if we want to screenshot this, it's going to be pretty tiny. So the way that we can work around this is to increase the document to double the size. So it's going to be twice as big as this actual size, but when we go to AA have, we're going to end up with a full screen. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to the document palette, and here in the 5th section, we have buttons to double it or to half the document. And this switch here indicates that the width and the height is proportional. So if we leave this one on, whatever we do here with the width is going to be proportionally changed here in the height. All I want to do is double the size of the document. So I'm going to click on double. ZBrush is going to say, resizing the document is not an undoable operation. Would you like to resize this document? And of course, I'm going to say yes, because that's what I am intending to do. And I go ahead and do that. All right. So now this document is double the size, but things look even weirder, like even worse. So I'm going to try to rotate around by clicking and dragging. And this is what happens. So you go like, okay, what just happened? I'm going to click and rotate around. Oh no, this is another dog. And then without knowing, you just click and dragging, and you end up like adding all these dogs because you are essentially in 2.5D mode, right? As soon as ZBrush changes the document or loads a new document, the tool that you have, which is currently the dog, is you're basically dragging and drawing the tool into the canvas so you can start working, right? And this is a concept that comes from very early stages of ZBrush of 2.5D. So essentially what I have here is just a flat image, but it looks 3D because of the pixel. So the tool that I'm using, which is currently just a dog, is the equivalent of a brush in Photoshop. I'm just painting by dragging this dog, okay? So this is basically a 2D illustration, right? The difference is that if I drag a very large version of this dog, you'll see that it looks almost like it's a bunch of 3D objects or 3D dogs that are intersecting with each other. But this could be extremely frustrating if you don't know what is going on. So it's important to understand that at this point, this is a 2.5D image, and your tool is, or your brush ultimately is just this dog. So you could change the stroke, and instead of dragging, you could be just painting with the shape of a dog. So I'm going to do it just because as a demonstration, you don't have to do it. You don't have to follow along. But if I go to stroke and I change to freehand, for example, or dots, right? When I paint, you'll see I'm just painting like a normal brush, but the tip of my brush is actually just a dog. And I can have this will be absolutely crazy if it was just an actual 3D model. But because this is 2.5D, look how many dogs I can have. I can actually right click and increase my brush size. And even the cursor is not red, it's just a white cursor, just to indicate that this is not 3D. But like, imagine if this was an actual a 3D object, how many millions of polygons we would have here. And that's why it is so good and so crazy about ZBrush. We can fill an entire document just with 2D images of a dog, right? That ultimately we're just painting. So this is a pretty cool looking illustration that is using depth and orientation and all that. But anyway, going back to what I originally said, is that as soon as you resize or recreate a new document, ZBrush is going to take whatever you had, which in our case was our dog, and it's going to drop it to the canvas and immediately switch to 2.5D. Okay, so whatever you do next is gonna just be drawing a dog. So I'm gonna go back to the stroke that I had, right, which is click and drag, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and clear the canvas. So the clear the canvas is something very important that you should remember the shortcut, but I'll show you where it is in the UI. So the shortcut will be Control plus the letter N in your keyboard. Okay, so that is also in the color palette if you go to clear. So it is the equivalent. And if you hover over the clear button, it is also going to show you this Control N. So you can click here, or you can just, go Control N and the canvas is gone, right? So I'm just going to undo that just to let you know that if I want to save this as a document, and this is something that we have already covered, we can go to document and we can export this as an image, right? So this is my new artwork, dogs everywhere. I'm going to export it as a document. Now I'm going to hold Control N. I'm going to clear the canvas, and then I'm going to draw a single version of the dog. So I'm going to click and drag. All right, so here is my tool of the dog. I've only dragged it once into the canvas, right? And then you'll see I have this edit switch off. And that is the main issue, right? So as soon as I drag my first dog, right, I can go ahead and click edit. And now you'll notice a couple of things happen. In this case, now we have the grid, and this line, this outline appears. So this is a good indication that we are now in the 3D space and no longer in the 5D space. All right, so now we can actually go ahead and rotate around, move things the way that we wanted to, and that's it. If for some reason you don't realize that that's the case, or you accidentally press something on your keyboard like the letter T, which is a shortcut, in this case I just pressed it and it gave me this pop-up saying that the active mesh is currently 3D mode. Would you like to switch it to 2.5D? You can go switch, and you'll see now the edit mode is off again. So it might look like the character or the dogs is still in 3D, but if I click again, you'll have the same problem. All right, so I'm gonna click a couple of times just to do the same thing. One more time in here, and then I'm gonna go into edit mode. All right, so now this dog, the last one that I did, is in edit mode, so I can just rotate around. Let me clear the canvas from these details. All right, so I can move the dog around, but you'll see these other dogs, which are just 2.5D images, are floating in the canvas. Okay, so at this point, all we have to do is clear the canvas, and Siri is gonna delete everything that is 2.5D and leave you with only the 3D dog. So I'm gonna hold Control N, and now we don't have any canvas, which is pretty good. All right, so that is basically what I wanted to show you, a quick rookie mistake that it could be very, very frustrating if you don't know what is happening. So let me just do it again. Actually, I'm going to show you the document. So I'm going to go to an AA half. Now, this document is showing at AA half, or half of the real size of the document. But if we get closer, you'll see now the edges are pretty smooth. Okay. Now, the only thing to consider is that because this document is really big and it's been showing at half the size, getting closer to a mesh at this resolution in terms of the document could be a little bit laggy for your system. So I prefer to work in the usual size, and at the end, when I go to render, or if I want to export like a work in progress that is pretty big, or with a good resolution, I go ahead and change the document. But for the most part, let's go ahead and leave it as it is. So I'm going to go to document and revert it back to half. So right now it's 3664 by 1744 pixels. I'm going to go half that, and we're going to get the same pop-up saying this is an undoable operation. Let's go ahead and click yes. And remember what happened. This is a 2.5D. As soon as we change something with the document, I just want to show you, just remind you that we lost the outline here. Remember, there is an outline around there. It's not there anymore, and also there's no grid. So now this is a 2.5D that is being dropped into the canvas. Okay, and remember, we don't have the possibility of going into edit mode. And the reason we cannot go into edit mode is because we haven't drawn anything new. So as soon as I click and drag a new version of this dog, the edit becomes available, and I can just click on edit or press the letter T. So pressing the letter T, now I'm in edit mode again, and I still have this piece that was dropped in canvas in 2.5D, so we can just hold Control and N and clear it. Done. So we are good to go. And that is basically what I wanted to show you. I'm gonna go AA half, showing you that this is actually half the document. So full size is this, and that covers everything. And we still have the cameras. Now, the cameras are gonna be slightly different because the cameras that we saved in the previous video were actually with the dog in a different position, but everything is still working the same. All right, so that covers that extra tip or bonus lesson that I want to show you. I know it could be a very frustrating thing if you don't know what's happening, but hopefully this clears things up. Just remember, if things starting to look a little bit weird, just make sure that you are in 3D and not in 2.5D, and you can revert back to this lesson if things happen at some point, or you can also check the private community and go ahead and check if the answer is there as well. But for the most part, that covers it. If it happens, you at least know why it's happening and how to fix it. And it's important to know that as a background thing, as a very core concept, because of the what I mentioned about ZBrush using 3D and 2.5D to create these awesome sculptures that we're gonna start working on. All right, so this is it for this module. We have covered all the basics. Everything is ready to go. You know how to navigate, what the basic core principles of the UI are. You can customize your UI. So we are ready to start working with ZBrush and producing something really, really cool. All right, so I'll see you in the next module.